Hello, we are Group 12, and today our group will be presenting with the topic China's surprising solution to clear cooler air based on a case study in Tangshan. So, Tangshan, historically known as a heavy industrial city, has long faced severe environmental challenges. With a history rooted deeply in coal mining and steel production, Tangshan became one of China's most polluted cities, suffering from hazardous air quality, contaminated water resources, and degraded landscapes. This pollution has significantly impacted the health and well-being of its residents, contributing to high incidence of respiratory illness, cardiovascular disease, and reduced quality of life. The policy implements a comprehensive two-pronged approach to pollution reduction. At the industrial level, which has been the primary focus, the city has undertaken bold measures, including the closure or cancellation of 103 coal-fired power plants and a significant cut in steel production capacity by 15 million tons. These industrial reforms represent a fundamental shift in Tangshan's economic structure. Simultaneously, the policy addresses pollution at the community level through several innovative measures. Citizens are required to transition away from coal stoves and furnaces in their home, while stricter standards have been implemented for vehicle emissions and fuel quality. Perhaps most notably, the government has established a nationwide network for PM 2.5 monitors, making this data publicly accessible. This transparency allows citizens to check real-time air quality through their smartphones and report violations, marking a significant shift toward public participation in environmental protection. Recognizing these critical issues, Tangshan's local government has embarked upon a comprehensive ecological transformation. This ambitious policy aims not only to improve environmental conditions, but also to enhance public health and well-being. By addressing air pollution through stringent industrial emissions controls, revitalizing water quality using innovative river shift system, the expanding green spaces under the Forest Shift Initiative, Tangshan is fundamentally reshaping its urban and ecological landscape. This policy is particularly significant because it integrates multiple socio-economic determinants of health, such as employment transitions from traditional industry to sustainable sectors, urban design improvements for healthier living environments, and increased community engagement in environmental governance. Moreover, it aligns closely with China's broader national strategy of building an ecological civilization, promoting intersectoral collaboration and sustainable development. So, in the subsequent sectors, my teammates will further analyze how this policy specifically impacts health outcomes, evaluate using the health policy framework, and provide recommendations for future improvements.
And now, Alice and I are going to talk about the impacts on policy analysis. The selected population of this policy is residents of Tangshan to enhance their health and well-being. The first impact is legislation and governance. Tangshan has implemented stricter laws and regulations aligned with Xi Jinping's ecological civilization thoughts, prioritize environmental protection. Established the Tangshan Air Pollution Prevention Regulations and the Ecological Environment Protection Regulations to enhance accountability in environmental governance. Secondly, Tangshan has established a centralized command center for integrated pollution management, improving data sharing and quicker responses to pollution incidents. Also, Tangshan has demonstrated administrative accountability. Local officials are now evaluated on both economic growth and environmental outcomes, fostering a culture of accountability. Moreover, collaboration across various government departments in city, country, and villages creates a cohesive strategy for addressing pollution systematically. Moving on to the second impact, ecological improvements. Tangshan is transforming its industrial landscape by closing polluting industries. This promotes cleaner technologies and sustainable economic practices. Additionally, rigorous pollution control measures have maintained a good level of the air quality index, leading to improved air quality and positively impacting residents' health.
Third, green transformation. The policy committed to promoting clean energy by switching to renewable energy to reduce pollution levels. It also optimized public transportation system. It promotes electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel vehicles, which is the clean energy transportation to replace traditional fuels. It can reduce unnecessary transportation emissions such as carbon emissions. Furthermore, it promotes and encourages green travel to the Tangshan precedents such as walking and cycling. Fourth, water management. The policy committed to improve the water quality by implementing the following strategies, including implement a strict water resources management system to ensure sustainable use of water resources, strengthen sewage treatment such as industrial wastewater, domestic sewage, etc., promoting ecological conservations, implementing water sources protections such as river and lake ecological protections and restorations, conserve natural wetland and biological habitats by providing biodiversity educations, public education and participation to increase and improve opportunity for public participation in water resources conservations and publicize the importance of water resources protections.
So how do these policies contribute to enhancing residents of Tangshan's health outcomes and improving their well-being? First, the stringent legislation leads to measurable improvements in air and water quality throughout the city, reducing the incidence of health issues. Secondly, effective governance creates a culture of accountability. Environmental health has become a key consideration in governance. This focus leads to proactive measures aimed at safeguarding public health. Thirdly is the improved ecology. The shutdown of polluting industries reduces emissions in the region, resulting in a substantial decrease in PM2.5 concentrations, and residents are now experiencing more days with good air quality. These changes significantly lower the health risk associated with pollution.
For having cleaner air, it reduces the risk of Tangshan residents to have disease, such as respiratory disease, cardiovascular disease, etc. By improving water quality, it can ensure that water cleanliness and prevent waterborne disease, assure that everyone can drink clean water. Promoting ecological conservation can increase green space and ensure ecological balance. To encourage citizens' participation in the policy can improve people's sense of belonging, satisfaction, and happiness as feeling being a part of changing the environment. Most importantly, this policy promotes sustainability. It's not just a one-goal policy. It will benefit the future generation of Tangshan to promote the well-being. Also, by promoting the economic stability, it will enhance the green economy and sustainable practice to provide an environmental-friendly employment opportunity to all the Tangshan residents.
Moreover, the clear emission standards in stricter regulations emphasize that environmental health is integral for economic growth. This dual focus ensures that industrial activities do not compromise air and water quality but prioritize health risk reduction. And the rigorous evaluation of local officials foster fairness, encouraging them to be role models. This promotes collaboration between the government and citizens, working together to build a beautiful ecosystem. So, we can see that the content of this policy is to enhance the health and well-being, either physical or mental, of the Tangshan residents.
Moving on to intersectorial collaboration. Strong intersectorial collaboration has been demonstrated. The provision of research-backed knowledge from experts of different fields can empower the government to adopt a more evidence-based policy process, which enhances public trust. Then, the industry and energy sectors cooperate and abide by the regulations imposed by the government to collaboratively achieve goals for pollution control and sustainable energy development. And lastly, the environmental and transport sectors help monitor and collect data on the effectiveness and compliance of these policies, and provide more data for experts for research and development, to develop and advise more effective interventions for pollution control. This creates a positive cycle because sustained efforts from different sectors can help pinpoint the pollution problems more effectively. However, as the approach is primarily top-down, there is little involvement for industry and labor sectors. When the government fails to factor in their perspectives and struggles, industries and labor sectors have little room to adjust and cope. Many workers in the coal industry face job losses, income reduction, and economic instability. Coordination may not be sustainable. Sectorial cooperation is only reactive instead of proactive. For example, factories were forced to shut down temporarily before big events, so the city wouldn't exceed its annual pollution limits. This suggests that sustained planning between public and private sectors is still lacking. Moving on to equity considerations. One strength of this approach is that vulnerable populations can benefit the most from cleaner air, water, and environment. Although equal access is granted, it is the elderly people, children, and those with chronic illnesses who benefit the most, as they are often more susceptible to pollution problems compared to the rest of the population. Also, shifting to renewable energy, enforcing vehicle emission standards, and standardizing fuel quality promote long-term equity by reducing pollution-related health disparities. Lower-income communities, often exposed to higher pollutional levels, will gain cleaner air and better health outcomes, ensuring all children, regardless of their socio-economic status, can thrive in a healthier environment. On the other hand, information gaps can be reduced, as all residents have access to data on real-time pollution. Marginalized or lower-income communities who usually had limited access to environmental data can be empowered to adjust their daily activities accordingly to protect their health. While enforcing various standards may benefit the environment, they often come at a high cost, placing a financial burden on low-income residents. Those relying on coal stoves or older vehicles may lack the resources to transition to cleaner alternatives, and non-compliance with fuel standards can lead to penalties. As a result, these policies may disproportionately impact marginalized communities, worsening energy poverty in areas where coal has been the most affordable or accessible energy source. Moreover, Tangshan is a hub of heavy industry and coal burning, providing a major source of employment. However, forced reduction in production could lead to mass layoffs, putting low-income workers and their families at risk of losing their livelihoods. Without retraining programs, relocation support, or financial compensation, the burden of environmental policies falls unfairly on the working class and poor, exacerbating economic inequalities.
Next, we'll evaluate the integration of health impact assessments. Firstly, for the screening stage, while the development of this policy did not have a formal health impact assessment or screening stage, Premier Li Keqiang had recognized the major health risks of pollution, especially arising from coal-fired furnaces and steel factories in Tangshan, and identified the need to create a policy to reduce pollution levels. For scoping, the policy recognized specific pollutants such as PM2.5 and PM10 and their negative health impacts, such as increased risk of respiratory, cardiovascular, and neurological diseases. The policy also scoped out the areas of focus such as Tangshan. Also, although there were no formal engagement of stakeholders, the development of the policy involved multiple government ministries and agencies such as the Ministry of Environmental Protection and the National Development and Reform Commission. Additionally, public protests on air pollution played a role in prompting government action. For recommendations, as a result of the findings on the specific negative health impacts of pollution, the Chinese government also proposed specific targets and strategies to reduce pollution targeted to Tangshan, such as limiting steel production and reducing the activity of coal-fired power plants. Finally, to report and monitor the effects of the policy, the Chinese government built a nationwide network of monitors tracking PM2.5 levels. The government also made the data from this network public, enabling public engagement and ensuring sustained advancements in reducing pollution and improving public health. Finally, we will move on to the conclusion and recommendations. In conclusion, the policy has successfully reduced air pollution, brought ecological improvements, stimulated green transformation, and also improved water quality, overall enhancing the health and well-being of residents of Tangshan. However, some limitations are still to be addressed, such as the cost burden of clean energy on low-income residents leading to energy poverty, and also job losses. This brings us to our recommendations. Firstly, we recommend that the government can popularize the generation and use of clean energy such as solar and wind power. The government can stimulate the expansion of sustainable energy sources by investing in research and development, leading to the mass production of sustainable energy, both increasing its supply and lowering its cost. This will uphold the government's efforts to reduce pollution while simultaneously helping to meet the energy demands lost due to the closing of coal-fired power plants. Additionally, the popularization and reduced costs for clean energy resources will make clean energy more affordable for low-income families, subsequently alleviating the equity problem of energy poverty. Secondly, to further reduce this problem and enable a larger proportion of the population to use clean energy sources in a shorter term, the government may also subsidize the use of clean energy for low-income families. This will aim to help reduce the initial financial burden for low-income families to adopt the use of clean energy or repurchase home appliances that utilize clean energy. Finally, to minimize the negative impact of job losses due to the mandatory closing of steel factories and coal-fired power plants, the government can implement retraining programs for previous workers of these industries. This will help foster skill acquisition for displaced workers so that they can be employed in new industries such as the growing renewable energy sector. This brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you.